Hi everyone. Welcome back to Math Tutorials 82. If you're new, well, welcome for the first time. If you're a regular, please don't forget to subscribe because that really helps the channel and it helps me out a lot. Here in Math Tutorials 82, as you know, we work together to master the skills that will set you up for success. So today we're going to be talking about area. So how do we calculate the area of an object? Well, simple. The first thing we're going to do is go with a square and a rectangle. So for a square, the area is equal to just length squared. Since all of the sides of a square are the same length, and for a rectangle, the area is length times width. So having said that, I'm going to bring in two examples, very simple in order to get things started. So we have these two shapes. So one is a square, one is a rectangle. So going into our example, the area of the square would be 5 inches times 5 inches, and that equals 25 inches squared. For the rectangle, it would be 5 inches times 10 inches, and that equals to 50 inches squared. So as you can see, the rectangle has twice the area as the square in this case. And so what's the next one? Well, a circle. So we'll start with the basics. So the ancient Greeks noticed that the circumference of a circle or of any circle could be determined using a factor or a constant, which they called pi. And that constant is 22 divided by 7, or 3.14. And so this is an irrational number because the number just keeps on going. However, they noticed that with knowing the circumference of, knowing the pi factor and knowing certain aspects of the circle, you could determine the circumference. So, for instance, the circumference of a circle is equal to pi times 2 times the radius of the circle. Or it's also equal to pi times the diameter. And that is because diameter of a circle is equal to 2 times the radius of a circle. So for instance, let's take the diameter of a normal circle. So I'm going to show one right here. So this one has a diameter of 10 inches. So the radius is equal to 10 inches divided by 2, and equals to 5 inches. So in this case, the circumference is equal to 22 divided by 7 times 2 times 5 inches. And so when we look at that number, it's equal to, roughly, because as I mentioned, pi is an irrational number, it's equal to 31.4 inches. And so when we look at the circumference, it's basically the length around the circle. So if you needed to, for instance, use if you needed to decorate the circle, a table, with a radius of 5 inches or that has a diameter of 10 inches, then you need roughly a piece of cloth or fabric that has a width or length, depending on how you use it, how you set it up, of at least 31.4 inches. So now, how do you determine the area of a circle? So, simple. The area of a circle is pi r squared, where r is the radius of the circle. So taking that same circle that we used before, the area of the circle would be equal to 22 over 7 times 5 inches squared. And that would be roughly 78.5 inches squared. So let's say you were given, instead of the radius, the diameter. Since we know that diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, and we need the radius in order to calculate the area, you would say radius is equal to diameter divided by 2. And so the area of a circle can also be, obtained using the formula of pi times diameter divided by 2 squared. So that would be equal to pi times diameter squared divided by 4. So the next item we're going to discuss is the arc length of a circle, which equals to 2 times pi times the angle in radians. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I obtain the radians? Or how many degrees does a circle have? So a circle has 360 degrees, or 2 times pi radians. So if you were to get 60 degrees and convert to radians, it would be equal to 60 divided by 360 times pi times 2. And that's equal to 1.05 radians. So taking our example of the circle, if we wanted to just cover part of the table or of the object, and for instance, we just wanted to cover this part of the table, and that part of the table makes a 60-degree angle, then your arc length is the degrees in radians times the radius. So because we have a radius of 5, the arc length, or the distance between right here to right here, is 5.23 inches. So that's the amount of fabric or paper that you would need in order to decorate or cover up that part of the table. So if you've made it this far in the video, you earn one solid gold star. So you might be asking yourself, so why is it important to know the area of a square or a rectangle or even a circle? Well, one of the uses is to be able to calculate what space you can actually use, when you move. So for instance, here I have a room which I'm moving to, or am considering moving to, which has a length of 12 feet and a width of 11 feet and 2 inches. And so I need to know if I can take my current bed with me, if I can fit in the nightstands I have, or what if I can use one of my dressers or bookshelves or desks. And so before moving, what I can try to do is see what would be the best fit. So I would try to use my model to see if I can potentially place the bed against this wall, or if I can place it against the window and try to have it out of the way of the door that leads to the bathroom, or the door that leads to the hallway. And so I need to be able to know what the area is of each of these components in order to see if it would actually fit inside my new room, or the room I'm considering moving to. So let's just use some cases here so you have a better idea. So in this case, if I put my bed against the window and I want to use one of my nightstands, I have two sizes of nightstands. So it looks like I'll be able to fit this nightstand here. Let's see the other one. So I can definitely use the larger nightstand versus the smaller one. And it looks like I'll be able to fit a king-size bed inside this room. Maybe a bookshelf would be, I can place a bookshelf. However, when I get out of the bed, there will be a little bit of, limitation on space. And so if we look at the dimensions between the bookshelf and the bed, we can tell just, what the situation is. So in that case, it's 1 foot and dot 29, well, 1.29 feet between the bookshelf and the bed. So that's a little bit of a stretch, but some people don't mind, the cramped area. So you just have to decide what's comfortable for you. Then let's see a desk, if I can actually pull that off. So if I take the large desk, I will be able to cramp it into the corner, but it's going to be somewhat of a, uncomfortable fit right there. So let's set the desk back. But that's the case for the smaller desk. So with the larger desks, that would probably be too small. So let's try the larger desk just for. So I know that if I have a large desk, it won't fit in that room, but the smaller desk will fit, but it'll be a bit of a cramped space. If I want a larger bookshelf inside of the space, we can try it out, measure the distance with the larger one. And as you can see, it'll be a little bit less than with the smaller bookshelf, but it will still fit. Just have to see if that's something you're willing to endure while you're living, I guess, in the space. Dresser-wise, let's look at two dressers. First with the larger one. So if we take the larger one, we're not going to be able to place it against the wall because of the doors. And so the only space would be right here. So it looks like our dresser will fit. And let's see with the desk if we manage to fit the desk there. The smaller desk, of course. And it looks like it'd be too cramped. So you just have to pick and choose what you want. So In this case, the final design or the final layout that was decided on was just to place a bookshelf to the corner, have the large dresser, the king size bed, and the two side tables. So hope this has shown you what you can do and the possibilities you have of knowing, or the potential headaches you can save yourself when moving or when considering setting up a space if you know the areas both of the space and of all the components that are going to go into the space. So I guess I will see you in the next one.